Welcome back, folks, to episode 2 of my show, The John Lovell Show. I am joined in studio by Heath and Ben and Mario, who didn't get a camera, so we'll just show you a picture of a camera as a stand-in for Mario. Guys, we're going to be talking about all things faith and family, freedom, firearms, firepower, cut to guns and stuff. Look at those guns. Yay for that. All the F stuff, right?
We did have one F thing that we didn't cover last week that I think was the most controversial of the week, and that is facial hair.
What happened was I shaved my face, and the internet got ticked about it. And I'm just, I want to have a face. I'm going to go gray. I'm going gray pretty quick. And so I thought, hey, before I look way older than I actually am, I'm in the...
Like Sean Connery.
I don't want to do that yet. And maybe the missus made me an offer I couldn't refuse. And so she likes it better gone. And so it's gone for a while. And the singular vote of my wife is more important to me than the collective vote of the internet. And this is the show. Today, we're going to be talking about all kinds of cross-cultural elements or countercultural elements. And I'm going to give you 5 ways that I radically live counterculturally. Some of it's going to probably irritate you and tick you off, and you're going to disagree and you're not going to like it. However, I would say when we disagree, that's an okay thing. When we're always saying the same thing, it just means we're in an echo chamber and you're never challenged with new or different ways of living and ideas. And a lot of times I'll read alternate opinions and perspectives so that I'm challenged by them, I can grow by them. And so that's kind of what we do. Warrior Poets, we're just trying to band together under one big umbrella of we live for higher purpose. We're ready to sacrifice in the defense of others. We're lovers of truth, and we seek that out. And that's that Warrior Poet way, even though our different expressions of faith or politics may differ, we're under that big kind of agreement there in the center as Warrior Poets, talking about all the important issues together. This is episode 2 of The John Lovell Show. So culture is one of the most powerful mechanisms around us. We're both aware of it and unaware of it all at the same time, just like you can kind of miss the forest through all the trees. You're just too close to it to actually see it. So some real positive American cultural elements I really like is we got a great spirit of innovation. We have a great spirit of freedom. We demand freedom. It's like an entitled, expectant thing. We demand freedom of speech. We're the freest nation on earth. I also like that American culture. We have a gun culture. I think we have more guns than people, and I celebrate a country that's armed to the teeth, and you can do crazy stuff. Here's me and my buddy Scott. We taped explosives to Frisbees once, and we played a game I made called Explosive Frisbee Golf, and the other dude throws a Frisbee, and you try to blast it out of the air with a shotgun, and I thought that was the most American thing I'd done in a long time. So yay for American culture, right? Yay guns. Now, some of you are being like, man, he's really going on the good stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'm trying to be a better balanced person because you know the bad is coming. But here's one more good. We're the most charitable country on the planet. And I don't just mean the government absconding wealth that you created to redistribute around the world in ways that you may or may not agree with. I'm talking about individuals and families of their own volition giving lovingly and charitably and joyfully to causes in their own backyard and around the world. We're the most charitable nation on the planet, and that's wrapped up in our culture. All right, so there's some good stuff. Here's some bad stuff, and then I'm going to get into 5 radical ways I live counterculturally, and that's going to be, I know some of it's going to be like kicking a hornet's nest, but I think it'll grow us overall, and it'll start a good conversation between us and in this room as well. Here's a bad thing. People live wildly above their means. The average American household is deeply ensconced in credit card debt, and they buy houses they can't afford and drive vehicles they have no business driving, and that's a bad thing, living up to just bad debt. We all want to live like little kings.
But I think most of us are sold on the whole, hey, I've earned it. I deserve something nice.
Right, but there's such a trade-off to buying the nice stuff. And that's now, whereas our grandparents, most of them were not bivocational. With our grandparents, the grandfather worked and the grandmother, raised the kids and kept the household in check and really, nurtured that and brought up the home. And today it's like, even to suggest that, the feminists come out of the woodwork and be like, that's awful, terrible. Well, she's giving up on her dream. How dare you love your kids and family more than a 9-to-5 that you'll have for a few years? Of like, somehow it's ditching your dreams and giving up to hold near and dear your family rather than working for the man at a corporate shift, climbing the ladder and giving him your best years rather than really growing the legacy of family. Somehow that trade-off, but now people can't afford a single income house anymore. And so both of you go to work so that you can afford the houses and the cars that you can't really afford, and you have someone else raise your kids for you, whether it's in daycare or public school or whatever. I'm leaning into some stuff that will get a little bit sticky and dicey, and I'm not judging anyone per se. I'm just saying that's a bad cultural element. Keeping up with the Joneses. It's not just an individual decision thing. It's kind of in the ether. It is a cultural pressure to spin, consume. Some other bad stuff, I think we're over-sexualized. I think we're extremely pornographic culture. I think we're vain. I think we're entitled. I think we're spoiled amidst our amazing wealth. And we spend so much time entertaining ourselves.
We live in this society where everybody thinks they deserve something, or they're told they deserve things. So even if you don't have the money for it, if you don't have the means for it, you still deserve it in some way, shape, or form. And so that gets people into that position where now they're buying into what culture's selling them and putting themselves in debt, and now they're house poor, car poor, whatever.
It's because we're an instant gratification culture.
Yeah.
Kids are immediately feeling that they should have the level of living as their parents who have worked for 3 decades to afford the car that they have.
Yep, agree with all. So let's jump into the 5 radically countercultural ways that I live. Let's jump into the first one. All right, so first, I visit online, but I live offline. And I bring this up because I think for a lot of you guys, if you looked at your screen time, really, you live online and then you visit your life. And that's not cool. That's going to hit you in all kinds of ways that you don't even realize of the opportunity cost that you're paying of, like, if you really just spread it out and looked at it, of like, really, man, you could have made a new business. You could have learned a new foreign language that year with all that time. You could have read all kinds of books. You could have invested in family time.
Social media is a good tool. The problem is when it becomes my entertainment, that's when I start realizing I need more boundaries.
Yeah, it just sucks me in where of like I'm scrolling,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden I realize 30 minutes has gone down by, and really some of it I did a little bit of work and a little bit of news, but really it's just like crazy cat videos and whoa, look at that stupid person. He tried to jump over a pool and he racked his nuts on the side. But man, I ended up deleting Instagram and Facebook on my phone because one, I think, of like those apps have all kinds of access to me that I don't want them to, and they're so censorious, they're just not worth it. So now when we're doing posting as a company, I deliver content to a social media manager who does the posting for me. And the only thing on my phone now is YouTube, because I learn from YouTube. I knowledge share some from YouTube still, and Twitter, because Twitter I'm personally active on. I'm actually doing the stuff because that's the least censorious platform that we have. And so, what about you, Ben?
Yeah, I feel pretty regularly convicted about screen time, because if I were to put the shoe on the other foot, would I be pleased if my daughter was replicating how much I was on my phone if she was on her phone?
That's fantastic. I completely agree. So one is, guys, you really want to visit online, but live offline. I live offline. Books and outside time and family stuff and good manual labor and fitness and guns. And I should have said firearms because we do the F thing on the show.
Stay with that, yeah.
That's a thing, and we just kind of started doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, why do these guys like F words so much?
It's the ones we can say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
F and A. All right, so a second thing, this is going to ruffle some feathers. I love my wife more than my kids. I think in American culture, we set up our kids like little kings and just all things bow to the children. Of like, I watch it all the time. couple or group is having a conversation, and then the kid comes up and pulls on the sleeve, mommy, 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 and the parent stops, interrupts, and fully engages with the child. And for me, it's not a terrible thing. Sometimes you need to have like, oh, your hair is on fire. Pause, let me take care of the kid, and bucket of water. You're not on fire anymore. And so there's some times when that needs to happen. But most of the time, you're teaching the kid that whatever I'm doing, you're actually more important than. And you can interrupt, and you can just be this spoiled little Napoleon. And I think we're spoiling our kids, and we're robbing important value from our spouses as well. And what I recognize is that kids, if you make them the center of your universe, you're going to spoil them rotten. And the thing that they really need more than anything is to see that mom and dad are deeply in love and committed to that relationship. And if you're, in that healthy marriage, the kids are going to be healthy. And if it's a broken marriage that idolatrizes the kids, the family is going to be unhealthy. And that's what I think. And some of you guys are probably guilty of that. You allow the kids to hijack your marriage. You're not doing date nights. But you got to do date nights. And this is a countercultural thing. Is I don't think modern families really prioritize their marriage over the kids.
Date night's super important. The thing that I think about that people are going to ask right now is, John, you don't love your kids? That, like, I need to hear that from you. Do you love your kids,
No,
John?
they're the worst.
I figured you were.
They're terrible. Awful. No, I love my kids. And so what I'm not thank you, Heath. Yeah. What I'm not telling folks to do is, all right, you need to love your children less. I'm like, no, you need to love your wife more. That's the point of, like, I'm not advocating loving anyone less. I'm saying love your spouse more than you do. Pursue them like when you first started dating, and that marriage is going to grow them and you and the kids who are watching. It sets a beautiful image of how to do life well. And if you don't do it that way, you're going to spoil your kids rotten. They'll be worthless little tyrants one day. Bratty, spoiled, undisciplined. I know I said brats already, but let me say it again. They'll be brats. Don't do it. Love your wife more than your kids, and everything will work out better.
I feel like at my house, it really sets a tone, too. My kids notice that. Our son's home from college right now. My wife fell asleep the other night on the sofa. He woke her up and was like, hey, you need to go get in bed. Like, he didn't like the fact that me and my wife were sleeping apart. Even though it had nothing to do with a fight, it was just she stayed up later. But for him, he was like, no, I want you and Dad to be together.
That's fantastic. I have my third one, and this is probably going to be the more controversial of all of them. People are going to fight me in the comments about this. But first, I think we should do our shameless plug section.
Shameless plug?
How does such a big man go so high? Are you a falsetto?
I've got a lot of range, okay? I got a lot of surprises, John.
We're doing it. Here we go. Guys, this week for Shameless Plug, we opted not to do a shameless plug at all. I'm just going to drink this coffee.
Yep, this coffee's good.
Definitely no product placement here.
And around the office, nothing to see here. Nothing to shop in the store to support the Warrior Poet Society.
This is a great mug.
No, that happened.
Keeps my coffee warm.
What? My goodness, I didn't notice how good that mug was. Could you imagine if you tried to drink coffee and you didn't have a mug? It'd look like this. Look at that. Holy cow, that guy needs a mug. He should go shop the Warrior Poet Society store. I'd tell him to do that, but this is not a shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
All right, the third way I live counterculturally is I adopt more of a puritanical rule for myself on how I interact with women. What that means is I don't have any like besties that are girls. My best friend is my wife. And other than that, I hang out with dudes and stuff, and I have friends that are females as well, but I'm not going to go like kick it with them or hang out with them or emotionally connect to them or share a secret with them or go catch lunch, just the two of us. I am never alone with a member of the opposite sex. The reason for all this is one, I don't really need that. I don't value that. And the reward isn't worth any type of risk where you could open up with some gal and then a little bit over time, 4 years later, you have an affair. It's like, oops. I don't know. I also just don't really feel comfortable with my wife having a relationship with dudes apart from me of like, what do you need from men that I'm not providing you? So this isn't some thing my wife and I place on each other. We didn't even really talk about it. This is just how we defaulted in our marriage. And so if I wanted a female friend, I could have one. My wife isn't, lording over me to say no female friends. And I'm not doing that over her. We just kind of went to this thing. We didn't need that.
So when you say puritanical, you mean more like just good boundaries as far as relationships you have that are not your wife.
Yeah, that's it. And I think boundaries is the right word. My wife didn't put that boundary on me. She wasn't like jealously trying to, unhelpfully keep me all to herself, though she could, because I belong to her and she belongs to me. That's what marriage is. We belong to each other, but she's not like jealously saying, I can't, look at a girl or, talk to a girl. And I'm not doing that with her either. We just kind of fell into that as a marriage, and we're not missing anything.
Well, and a lot of it's love and respect is what it's coming down to.
Yeah.
Like you love and respect your wife, and so you don't want to make her feel a certain way. You don't want her to make you feel a certain way. And I think you touched on it well, is that it can lead to things.
Right. And so it's not like we don't trust each other. Like it all of a sudden happened. Like I got to give a gal a lift, home of like, well, all right, then I can lax. I'll do that. I will tell my wife about it afterwards, just because I guess what I want is I want a faithful marriage, and the door is like shut and locked, sealed. So nothing could ever even happen. And if you just crack a door open to some of this other stuff, over time it can open more and more and more. And then though you're in no danger of making a mistake like today, in 6 years you are. And so I'd rather just keep that door completely shut so there's never an opportunity for anything to ever happen. And I guess that's what I mean when I say the risk isn't worth the reward. It's not like we can't control ourselves or we're in any danger of that now, but we're not worried about how's our marriage going to look today or tomorrow. We're playing the long game. And the long game looks like, man, marriages are falling apart and people are cheating on each other 7 years in, 10 years in, 20 years in, whatever, of like, I never want it to even be a possibility. And so out of love and respect, we just kind of have those boundaries.
Yeah, man. So I'm even probably a step further. Many years of doing ministry, I had a policy where I wouldn't even take rides with a solo with another female in the car.
Man, this guy's crazy.
Yeah.
You see this? Wow. Puritan.
Well, look, the thing is, though, this might be a controversial point. Somebody's going to be upset about it, but you do it because you want to have a better marriage.
Yeah, and I still be friends with girls. I'm not going to hang out with you solo, one-on-one. All right, fourth way I live radically countercultural is my wife and I don't let other people raise our kids. So we don't drop them off at daycare. We don't send them off to private or public school. I know a lot of you guys tuning in, you do, but let this just be an interesting thing to consider. We found out during the lockdowns that schools, even a lot of the private ones, were teaching our kids stuff that we didn't agree with. And a lot of folks, when lockdowns lifted, they didn't send their kids back. There was this massive exodus that stayed in the homeschool movement. And they realized, wow, we really value being there for the lion's share of our kids' day. It's if you're not careful, you can get in school where they're gone hours and hours each day and then extracurricular activities and sports and stuff. And really, you don't spend a lot of time with your kids. Maybe you're watching them at sports and stuff and you ride together in cars and you get around a dinner table a little bit, but really 8 hours a day, you're not raising your own kids. Someone else is raising your kids and y'all are working bivocationally. And maybe that's okay for a season. Maybe you want to go the long haul. I'm just saying for everything that you get more money, but you lose the ability to really be there for most of your kid's life. And so everything's a trade-off. And this one I want to be sensitive to because I'm aware of how many folks don't live this way. So I'm not cudgeling you with this, but this is something we do. And we've had to pay extreme prices for this. We had to really, this cut deep to downsize the way we lived so that we could be a single income home.
I'm glad you said that, though, because some people are in a situation where bills, whatever, they are a dual income family.
Yeah.
And, Matt Bodrow, who did a show on our network about home education, one of the things that he and I talked about was, okay, well, what happens when you can't change that, when you can't change that situation? And one of the things that I always look at is conversation. So I'm talking with my kids. So even if my kids are at school and learning things, we're talking about the things that they learn.
It may take some planning to do that. It may take a couple years. So make a 2-year plan to figure out all right, how do I downshift how much it costs to live each month? And this is going to be wildly difficult in the economic times that we're in and going into. It may not be feasible. And so if it's not, then having those good conversations and making sure that extracurricular activities don't eat up all the family memory time that you could be doing stuff together, and look for those teachable moments. This Saturday, my boys and I, we've been watching the Rocky movies. They're just turning into little workout machines where my youngest did 100 pull-ups the other day. Not all in one set. That would be amazing. But he's rocking out sets of 2 and 3. Yeah. And, we worked out Saturday as just the dudes, and then they wanted boxing. And so I was teaching them boxing. And it was really fun, cool time. I think the world would be better if everyone got punched really hard in the face every once in a while. You would be far more respectful. You would be far more, everyone's like, he's calling for violence. I'm making a joke that's kind of true, but don't go punch everyone in the face. But getting some martial arts, it may do you some good to get punched in the face.
We're going to get in trouble. We are going to get in trouble.
Screw it. You need to get punched in the face sometimes. All right, number 5, we are unplugged from the Matrix.
Well, you don't look like Keanu Reeves.
False. I am the one.
Oh.
So.
I knew it.
Yep. Your body is right now in this dystopian, futuristic pod.
Pudding stuff is coming. But
That's
I
it.
Like pudding.
That's it. You have no hair on your body.
I'm a skinless cat.
Your mohawk is gone.
Did you say a skinless cat? You mean hairless cat?
Hairless cat.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, this is terrible. So what I mean by unplugged from the Matrix, it means we're trying to grow our own food. We have our own cow, like we butchered, and we sold a cow and then we bought a butchered cow. So we're not eating Mrs. Moo. So, but we've got a cow in our basement. So we're eating beef that didn't have hormones and stuff pumped into it. And we're trying to be self-sufficient in that way. And we eat our own eggs from our hen house every morning. We're trying to be self-reliant, and that is extremely hard. And it's taken us years to get where we're at, and where we want to go, it's going to take years more. But we're trying to be unplugged from just kind of the whole system, where all the systems of supermarkets and fast food are required to keep us alive from week to week. So we wanted a healthier way of living. It's good for chores for the boys. It's good for outside time for us. We know what's in our food, and so we are healthier and we feel better, and it lowers our costs.
So it's kind of a two-pronged thing. It's healthier, but also makes you sustainable so that you don't have to just rely on the normal way of getting your food.
That's right. And if all the tinfoil hatters are completely wrong and our systems are good ad infinitum forever, and all these crises amount to squat and life goes on, well, then we would have just gotten healthier, been outside more, and done some good chores. That's our best case scenario. Our worst case scenario is hey, some of the, plants burning down and the economic times are harsh of like when no one else can eat, we still can eat.
It sounds like such a massive leap. What was your first step into it?
We moved out of a neighborhood. This was January 1st of, 3 years ago. And it took us quite a while from the time we said, we need to get out of a neighborhood, get a little bit of land around us, and start making steps to be more self-sufficient. We've been doing one little thing kind of each month, and over time it's added up to be quite a lot of like, my property's on solar now. That took a really, really long time. But really, I feel like my wife and I we had seen enough bad stuff, enough writing on the wall where like all the spending, all the crisis, all of this stuff, the infrastructure looks like it is cracking everywhere. And I think we just had the courage to look at it and say, this might end badly. What can we do to protect and provide? All right, tons more to the show. If you guys are watching on YouTube or you're streaming on all the different places that we do our podcast, thanks so much for tuning in. There's a lot more to this show, including our dad joke section, which is really fun, our Q and Ambush section, our training tip. We're going to also talk about some current event issues. SVB Bank, the second largest bank to collapse in American history, that just went down, and then government bailouts, and is that happening? And what do you do with your money? Do you jettison it from a banks, and are we overreacting, or are we not scared enough? And all the fallout. We also had the Oscars and some other newsworthy kind of things that I just want to comment on, and we'll chat about. So guys, you will have to go over to watchwpsn.com and sign up for our streaming service and download our app to watch the rest of the show. If you'd like to support us by signing up, we'd appreciate it. Use code JLSHOW, and that'll get you a nice hefty discount. I will say you'll be able to get this show. All of our other shows as well are available for you, as well as our training classes. Just watching Pistol 1 class alone would be worth multiple years of sign up. Not to mention all the other classes that we give you there. Please sign up, watchwpsn.com. Then you can download the app on wherever you see your shows and stuff. So iOS, Apple TV, Android TV, or Fire and Roku, wherever else you can download the app. We'd really appreciate it, and hope to see you there for the rest of the show. In the meantime, please enjoy this clip from our Q and Ambush section of the show. All right, so Andy asks, what are some good ways you've grown your skills in emergency medical preparedness? Any specific resources the average Joe can use to grow and stay proficient? First off, Andy, way to go. Warrior poet wanting to guard, protect life whenever you're leaning in of like, hey, how can I get some medical training or kit? That's always a selfless thing of like, you're wanting to help other people. And so I really like that. We had a scary thing happen in a recent firearms class. Paul, our training director, was teaching, and somebody literally fell over, went into cardiac arrest, and went flatline, died on the range. We had some medically trained personnel in class who started immediately giving CPR, and did that for about 2 minutes, and someone happened to have an AED. That's an automated external defibrillator. So think, shock them like clear, except this does it like automatically. And so between CPR chest compressions, they were doing a bag mask and hitting him with AED. 2 minutes later, brought him back to life, and now he's living. But if we hadn't have had the AED, he would have died. And so the very next day, I got on and I bought 3 AEDs to go out with any of our training guys. So if I have a lead instructor teaching a class on a range, because people are falling over mysteriously doing the kick and chicken of like, nope, we're doing AEDs now. And so we have defibrillators in our classes. I've got one on me at all times. I also updated my medical bag. So I just have a lot of trauma stuff, some of our medical kits that are already packed full with all of our medical devices. And I got some glucose in there. I had a scare where some diabetic man fell over in a Honduras airport, and I was there, and I didn't have any glucose, and he was unconscious. And so I couldn't put Skittles down his throat or anything like that. I didn't have glucose paste, and so I ended up updating that too. Also, we got a new medical instructor, Pat, who's phenomenal. Here's Pat. Absolutely incredible. I went to the class, Medical 1 and Medical 2, because I wanted to audit and make sure it was an amazing, amazing, top shelf class for all you guys. And so in that pilot, I found myself learning all kinds of stuff. Now, I went through EMT school, and I did some medical stuff, low-level stuff. But anyway, whether it's pushing IVs or shots and stuff, I've done more than just the average EMT. And so I'm medically inclined. I didn't expect to learn as much. I learned a massive amount in Med 1. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Train hard, train smart, stay free.